Hello, and welcome to the Chief Architect demonstration. My name is Philip and I'll be presenting for you today, and in this demonstration we'll be going through a full building design using Chief Architect Premier. We're going to first start out the demonstration by creating a floor plan and then adding a second story and foundation to the design, add some trim to the design, add a roof, and then frame out our model. We will then go through the layout sheet, materials list, and schedule features in the program, add a kitchen, add our electrical, add stairs to the model, and then go through the different 3D rendering options in the software. So let's get started. At the top of the screen you have your commonly used tools that are going to be used to create your design. There's different tools for walls, doors, windows, cabinets, and so forth, and you'll notice that next to each of these tools there's a little drop down arrow which contain child tools to further create your design. And you can also access these same tools from the child toolbar palette off to the left hand side. These tools can also be accessed through the menus at the top of the screen. And off to the right hand side we have the library browser, which is going to contain over 80,000 items and materials used to create your design. On the right hand side we have the edit toolbar, which will have different options for zooming in and out, showing a reference floor display, showing color, temporary dimensions, the background grid, and so forth. Let's go ahead and close out of our library browser and start by grabbing our exterior wall tool and creating our design. So I'm just going to left click with my mouse and drag out our wall until we have it about the length that we want it to, and notice that I'm getting that temporary dimension as we create this wall. And I'm not trying to be too specific with my dimensions right now because we'll come back and edit these later. And notice that as I drag this wall down here I get a blue coplanar line letting me know when I'm evenly across from that wall on the other side. So that's just one quick and nice efficiency feature in the program. So I'm going to continue creating our floor plan, and notice that once I have all of our walls completed we now have a room formed and we get automatic exterior dimensions going around our floor plan. And we'll come back and edit these dimensions here in a little bit. Next, let's get into a 3D view of our floor plan. So to do this we can go up to 3D and we have different 3D options. The first is going to be our orthographic views, and the second option is going to be our perspective views, and depending on what type of view you're trying to create there may be an option that works better. And we can also access these same 3D views through our toolbars right here. And I'm going to go ahead and get into a perspective floor overview, which is going to be a 3D view of our entire model without the ceiling, which allows us to look into our design. Now that I'm in my 3D view, we can orbit through this 3D view by left clicking on our mouse and moving from left to right. We can zoom in or out by using the scroll wheel on our mouse and going in or out. And we can pan back and forth by clicking with our scroll wheel and panning from left to right. You can also work in 2D and 3D at the same time by grabbing your 3D view tab up here and dragging it off to the right hand side, and then they'll dock side by side. You can also dock your 3D view and your floor plan view side by side by going up to Window and then selecting Tile vertically, or by pressing Shift F6 on your keyboard. If we go into our 3D view and zoom in, we can see that our exterior wall material is a blue lap siding material, and in the final rendering of the design we have a pony wall with the lower half being a stone material and the upper half a shake material. You will also notice this pony wall is a wall cap, which is a feature that was introduced in version X10. So let's go ahead and change our wall type. So first let's adjust our 3D view and our floor plan view slightly. Next, to change our wall type, we first need to select and open up all of our exterior walls. If we want to select a single exterior wall, we can do that by simply clicking on one of our exterior walls. And if we want to select multiple walls, we can select Shift or Control on our keyboard and then select other walls. However, we have a much faster way to group select objects. To group select objects, you first select the parent tool of the object that you want to group select, so in this case our exterior walls. Hold Shift on our keyboard and then marquee over the area that we want to group select our walls. So to repeat what we did there one more time, we first selected our exterior wall parent tool, we held Shift on our keyboard, and we marqueed over the area that we want to select our exterior walls and released, and there we had all of our exterior walls selected. To open up these walls we are going to go down to our bottom left hand corner where we have Open Object and just click once. And then we have the wall specification dialog box open. On the right hand side we have a 3D preview of what any changes to this wall will look like, and in the middle of this dialog box we can make any changes that we want to this wall. And then on the left hand side of this dialog box we have different panels for interacting with this wall. Currently we're on the general panel, but we can change how this wall will interact with the structure of our design, the roof, the foundation. Here we're going to change the wall types here in a little bit. We can add that wall cap here in a second, add a wall covering, change different rail styles, newels, balusters, layers, materials, and so forth. So to change our wall type, we're going to go to the wall types panel, and then we can select from the drop down what type of wall we want to change it to. And there's a lot of walls that come with the program, and if you want to create your own wall you can press define and create a new wall type here, specify the material that you're going to be using, the material's thickness, and create your own wall type. And if you need more information on how to create your own wall type, we have a lot of training resources on our website, and some of these resources are specific to walls, and you can find more information on how to create a new wall type. Let's go ahead and exit out of that and press cancel on our wall types definition dialog box. And from the drop down I'm going to select a wall type that I've already created. And then to create a pony wall I'm just going to check this box right here that says pony wall, and then select from the drop down what type of wall I would like the lower half of this wall to be. From these menus here I can select how high these walls will start, and I can also select where this pony wall is going to be aligned in relation to our main wall type. And if you're currently a Chief Architect user, you'll notice that these new options right here for how this wall will display in your plan view. And let's go ahead and display the lower pony wall type. So next, let's go ahead and add that wall cap on top of the stone wall. So we're going to go to our wall cap panel on the left hand side, and we're just going to click on Add New. And then here we're going to be brought over to our library browser where we can select different profiles that we want to use for this wall cap. I'm just going to go under our core materials, and what we're really looking for is just the general shape that we want to use for this wall cap. So I'm going to go down to our sills, and I'm just going to select the sill 1 that we're going to use and press OK. And then next we can change the height and width of this. So let's go and change the width to maybe 3 inches. And pressing tab on our keyboard will update our view. And we can see how that's looking in the 3D preview. And then next let's change it to a white material. So we're going to go over to our materials panel on the left hand side, and we're going to go to our wall cap, and you can currently see the material that we have selected. But I'm just going to press select material and then type in the new material that we want to use, which is going to be a white material. Select it and press OK. And we can see how that's looking in our 3D preview, and if we're happy with that, just press OK again. And now we have that new wall type for our plan. So notice in our floor plan view we still have all of our walls selected, but I can just click once off to the side and now we can see that new wall type in our floor plan. And you can set up what type of wall you want to be using, materials or finishes you want to use, sizes of objects, and more information in your default settings in the program before you start designing, so that when you start drawing the floor plan it's automatically based off of all these predefined defaults. And I've already predefined some of the default settings for this plan, and I will try to call them out during this demonstration. So next let's go ahead and dimension our floor plan. If I want this wall right here that's currently dimensioned at 15 feet 5 inches to increase or decrease in size, either the wall on the left or the wall on the right is going to have to change its position in order to accommodate this change. So let's go ahead and select the wall on the right, and you'll notice now that our dimension has changed from a blue color to a gray color, and I can now select our dimension. Once I've selected our current dimension, I'm just going to type in our desired dimension, 17 feet 5 inches, and because this dimension is increasing in size, this wall on the right is going to bump out a little bit. So let's go ahead and press enter. And you can see how that change occurred in our floor plan view. Our dimension has updated, and in our 3D view that moves slightly as well. So let's go back into our floor plan view, and next let's change this wall right here, which dimension is currently 4'3". And so in order to accommodate this change, either the wall above or below is going to have to move. Let's go ahead and select the wall below, select the dimension, type in our desired dimension, and press enter. And now that wall is updated. And you'll also notice that I have these temporary dimensions that I can use to change our wall size, but let's just turn these off for now. So next, let's change this wall right here, which is currently at 17 feet 5 inches as well. And I'm going to select the wall on the right, select our dimension, and then just type in our desired dimension of 18 feet 3 inches. And then this wall that we currently have selected, we're going to adjust its dimension, and to do that I'm going to select the wall above it, select the dimension, and then once again just type in our desired dimension. So I can continue doing this all the way around our floor plan until we have our walls adjusted to the size that we want them. So 20 feet there, and then we're going to adjust the size of this wall by selecting the wall on the bottom and typing in our new dimension, and then pressing enter, and then selecting this wall and typing in our new desired dimension and press enter. And then we can continue doing this for the rest of our floor plan. So this dimension is now going to be 28 feet 9 inches and press enter. And then this wall over here, we're going to change it to be 18 feet 3 inches. And then we're going to adjust this wall that's currently 15 feet 1 inches. And then by doing that, I know that our final wall is in place because we've adjusted all of our other walls, and our exterior walls are now completely dimensioned. So now that we've dimensioned a few exterior walls, let's go ahead and add some interior walls and then talk about how to dimension those. So in our floor plan view and our 3D view, I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. And then to add some interior walls, I'm going to go to our wall tools and select our interior wall tool, and then just click and drag in our floor plan where we want this interior wall to be located. And you can see how that's instantly updated within our 3D view. So I'm just going to continue to add a few more interior walls, and then we're going to talk about how we can dimension these. So now that we've added the interior walls and they're connecting into the exterior walls, we now get a dimension that we can use to modify the position of these walls. However, notice that we have some interior walls that do not meet the exterior walls, and so we do not have a dimension for them. So to add a dimension, we're going to have to use the manual dimension tools. These tools are located in our toolbars right here, and you can also access them through the CAD drop-down in the menus. And there's a lot of different manual dimension tools, and depending on what type of situation you're working in, there may be a dimension tool that's more appropriate to use. But for this example, we're just going to use our interior dimension tool, which is a good dimensioning tool for dimensioning interior walls. So I'm just going to left click and hold and drag it through all these walls, and notice that I get dimensions going from wall to wall within these rooms. And if we zoom in closer and press spacebar, and pressing spacebar, by the way, deselects whatever tool you have selected so that you can select other tools or objects. And if we look at the floor plan, you'll notice that these dimensions are going from the framing layer of each wall to the framing layer of the other wall. So if I wanted to adjust the size of this room, I'm going to select the wall on the left, select the dimension, type in our new dimension of 5 feet, and press enter. And now we have that room size updated. So we can continue doing that for these other walls and dimensions we have right here. Go and select the wall, select our dimension, and change it to the desired dimension. And then do that one more time for this wall in the end. And there we have those interior walls dimensioned. So now that we've added some walls and dimensioned them, let's go ahead and add a few doors into our plan. So I'm just going to reposition our floor plan view to about right here, and I'm going to go up to our top toolbar and select our door parent tool. And if we select the drop down, you'll notice that we have a hinge door, a doorway, sliding door, pocket door, bifold door, and garage door. But I'm just going to select our hinge door and come into our floor plan and just place a hinge door right there. So you'll notice in our floor plan view that we have the swing side that it's open, and if we select it, we get a little triangle that we can change the swing side and the swing direction. So that's a nice way you can quickly change that in your floor plan view. You'll also notice that you get a door label as well. So next, if we take a look at our picture of our final design, you'll notice that going off the back of the house, we have a pair of French glass doors. So let's go ahead and add these. So moving our picture off to the side, let's focus in on this area in our 3D view where these doors are going to be located, and navigate our floor plan view over to this wall. And we're just going to go up to our door tool, select our door, and then just click once to place it. So notice that in our 3D view that this door is automatically an exterior door, and that's just one of the smart features of the program, that when you add a door to a wall, the program's automatically going to know whether it's an interior door or an exterior door based on the wall type. And pressing spacebar, we can go ahead and double click on this door to modify it. On our general panel right here, we can change the door style that we have used, so let's go ahead and change it to a glass panel. And if we wanted to change the type, we could change the type here as well. Next, we can change the size and position of it. So let's go ahead and change the door to be 60 inches wide. And notice that when I did that in our 3D preview, it automatically changed to a set of French doors. If we wanted to keep designing this door, we could keep changing some of these panels off to the left-hand side. The options panel will change how it looks in our 3D view. You can change the casing profile that you're going to be using, the size of it, specify whether it's going to have a lintel, add any lights to it, the jamb, specify whether it'll have an arch, any of the hardware such as the handles, locks, and hinges, add shutters, specify how the framing around this door should behave, enter any of the energy values so that you can do an export to res check, change the layer that the door is on, specify the materials being used for this door, change the door label, or specify any object information. And if you're currently a Chief Architect user, you'll notice that this feature was expanded in version X10. So let's go ahead and press OK. And then next, let's make sure that this door is centered on this wall. And there's a couple ways we can do that. The first is we can select this door and drag it along the wall until we snap to the red triangle, which indicates that we're centered in the wall. If we take a look at this room, you'll notice that we also have a doorway leading into our kitchen area. So let's go ahead and add this doorway. So to do this, I'm going to go up to our wall tools and select our interior wall, and then just drag it straight down. Go to our door tools and select our doorway. And then once again find that red triangle, double click on the doorway to open it up, and then we can change its width right here to 8 feet and press enter. And there you can see that we've added that doorway. Next, let's go ahead and add some windows to this room. So if we take a look at the picture of our final design, we have 2 windows on either side of the door. So let's go ahead and add these. So to do this, I'm going to go into our 3D view and I'm going to select our window tool. And for this example, I'm going to elect to work in 3D. And I'm just going to click once to place our window there, double click on it to open it up, and then we can go through and change the style of this window. So I'm going to change the window type to be a double casement. Go ahead and adjust the height to be 60 inches. And you'll notice that we have many of those same panels that we saw when we were designing our doors. And that's kind of one of the nice things about the program, is that you learn how to design something once, and many of those same techniques and processes for designing apply throughout other areas in the program. So let's go ahead and go down to our lights panel, and we're just going to add 1 across and then 2 vertical, and then press OK. And you can see how that window updated within our 3D preview. And if I want an exact copy of this window to be on the other side of the door, I could place a window right here and recreate it exactly how we had it, but there's a more efficient way to get a copy of this window over onto that side. So with the window selected, in our bottom toolbar we have an option right here for copy, and notice that my cursor changes and I can just click and place a copy now in any of our walls. But there's a child tool called Reflect About Object, which will take this tool, and now we have a gray dashed line letting us know when we can reflect a copy of our first object about a second object. So with that gray dashed line on our door, I'm just going to click once, and there we've placed an exact copy of this window on the other side of our door. And if we wanted to just place a copy of this window anywhere we wanted in our plan, we can simply select that copy and then just place it in another wall. Now we can visually see that this window is not centered within this wall or within this room. And we've already discussed one way that we can center objects in walls with the red triangle, but another way I can center an object relative to a second object is through a tool called the Center Object tool. To use this tool, I first select the object I want to move, in this case this window, and then in our bottom toolbar we get that tool, which is called the Center Object tool. And then I get that gray dashed line indicating that I can now center this object about a second object, in this case this room. And when I click once, that wall's position will be moved, and now it's evenly centered in this room. And one other thing you'll notice now that I've added windows and doors is that we have automatic dimensions running throughout our floor plan, and we can once again use these dimensions to modify the position or width of these objects if we wanted to. Next, since we're done dimensioning, let's hide the display of our dimensions. To do this, we need to turn off the layer that the dimension is on, and if you're unfamiliar with layers, layers control the display and behavior of objects within our plan. To access our layers, we're going to go up to Tools, Layers Settings, and then Display Options. You can also access the same option through your toolbar right here. So here we can see the different layers that we have within our plan, whether the layers are being used, whether they're being displayed, whether the layer is included in the materials list, if we want to lock it, or change any of the other appearance characteristics about the layer. So I'm going to go down to our dimension layers, and I'm just going to uncheck automatic and uncheck manual and press OK. And you can see how that cleaned up our floor plan quite a bit. So next, let's go through and define some of our room types, and defining a room type is important because our room types to contain structural and material information about the individual rooms. In our 3D view, if we come over to this section of our plan, go up to our mouse orbit camera tool, and then zoom in and press spacebar and select within this room. You can see in the bottom left hand corner I have the room selected. So here let's go ahead and define what type of room this is going to be. So let's go ahead and say it's a laundry room. And if you wanted to, you can specify the structure for this room and height information. If it was a deck, some of our deck options, add another molding, change the wall covering, the fill style, or the materials. Let's go ahead and press OK. And if we press spacebar and look in our 3D view, you'll notice that this room that we specified now has a different floor finish material. If we come over here, we can double click on this room and change this to what will be our garage and press OK. And you'll notice that the floor finish has changed to a concrete material. So next, let's go ahead and build our foundation. So to do that, I'm going to go up to Build, Floor, Build Foundation. And here we can specify what type of foundation we're going to be working with. We're going to be working with a wall with footings, but if you wanted to change it to beams on piers or a slab, you could. You can specify the slab thickness here, the height for your stem walls, including your sill plates. And if you wanted to make a basement, you would just change it to whatever height you want your basement to be here, and the program will automatically create it as a basement. And you can also specify different garage options for this room. Let's go ahead and press OK. And this next question is going to ask how we want to build our foundation type. And by pressing OK to this first type, we're going to tell the program to build stem walls below our exterior walls. And we're going to press OK. And you can see how that updated within our 3D view. You can see how we have our concrete stem walls in one part of our plan. And in this part, how we've specified that the room type is going to be a garage, we have a concrete slab instead. So next, let's go ahead and add a second floor. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of our 3D camera, and to build a second floor, I'm going to go up to Build, Floor, Build New Floor, and just click once. And then this box is going to ask if we just want to build a second floor based off of the first floor plan, or we could make a new blank floor plan and freehand draw our walls. And I'm just going to press OK to this. And then next we can specify different height information if we wanted to, or structural information, but let's just go ahead and press OK to this. And now we have our second floor added to the plan, and if we take a look in a 3D full overview by going up to our 3D tools and selecting our perspective full overview, we can see that we have our second floor added. And if you take a look in our photo of the finished design, you'll notice that we have a second floor only over this half of the plan. So let's go ahead and modify the position of our walls to reflect this. So I'm going to go ahead and pull our 2D and 3D view side by side again. So I'm just going to select the wall and drag it back and do the same thing on the other side, and then just do the same thing on the left hand side. And there we have our second floor just over the right hand side of our floor plan. And if we wanted to see where the location of our walls are on the first floor of our design, if we were considering adding some, we could turn on our reference floor display to see them. And to do this, you can turn that on in the toolbar on the right hand side, and by doing that we can see where those walls are located. Let's go ahead and turn our reference floor display back off, and we can go back down to our first floor by selecting the down arrow in our toolbar. And you may have noticed there that the walls displayed in the floor plan view are different on the first floor compared to the walls on the second floor. And this is because on the first floor we have a pony wall, with the lower half of the pony wall being a stone wall type and the upper half of the pony wall being a shake wall type. And on the first floor we're displaying the stone wall, which has this red fill, And on the second floor, we only have the shake wall type, which has the gray fill. Going back to our first floor, let's next add a belly band to the design. To do this, I'm going to zoom in a little bit on one of our exterior walls and select closely to it, but not exactly on the exterior wall. And by doing that, you'll notice I now have a gray outline going around the floor plan. And in the bottom left hand corner it says exterior room, and I can select this option in the toolbar, the second option from the right that says make room molding polyline, and that's just going to create a molding polyline that we can use to create this belly band. So I'm just going to specify that the height of this belly band is going to start at 100 inches and then press OK. And then you can see how that displayed within our floor plan, and in the bottom left hand corner it says molding polyline, and I'm going to open it up, and then I'm going to go down to the panel that says moldings, and I'm just going to select add new and then select a new molding from within our library browser. And similarly to adding the wall cap, we're just looking for the general shape of the molding that we want to use here. In this case we're going to use a rectangular base molding, and then press OK. And then we're going to change the height and width of it. So let's go ahead and adjust that now to 11.25 inches and 3/4 of an inch. And then we're also going to uncheck this option for extrude inside polyline so that it displays on the outside of the polyline. And then we're going to press OK. And you can see how we've now added that belly band to our model. Next, if we take a look at the final design, let's go ahead and add the corner boards that you see here. So to do that, I'm going to go up to Build, Trim, and then I'm going to select this option for Auto Place Corner Boards. And you can see how we've automatically placed corner boards throughout the model. And if you didn't get any corner boards on your inside corners, this is a default setting that you can adjust. So we've covered a lot of information up to here, and in this building plan we're going to go through, it has many interior walls, rooms, windows, doors, and more. And in order to save some time in this demo, I've already got a saved iteration of this plan made that we're going to open with the general floor plan completed. So I'm just going to open that file now. And we're going to close our 3D view, close the other file we were working with, and move on to adding a roof onto our design. If we take a look at a photo of the final design, we can see that we have two separate roof systems, one going over the second story of the house and the other going over the first story of the house, and we're going to model this using a combination of the automatic and the manual roof features in the program. So I'm going to bring the photo off to the side, and to get our roof started we're going to use the automatic features. So to automatically build the roof, I'm going to go up to Build, Roof, Build Roof, and here you can specify many of the options for how you want this roof to build. We're going to start off by checking this auto rebuild roof, and then let's go ahead and change the pitch from an 8 and 12 to a 6 and 12. And then you can specify many other options for this roof. You can change the roof overhang here, the roof height, the bird's mouth, other options for how the eaves and break lines behave, how this roof should frame, the rafter tail, the ridge cap, change the gutter, and other options as well. Let's go ahead and press OK, and then in our floor plan we can see where that roof was built on the first floor as indicated by these green dash lines. And notice that we do not have a roof displaying over this part of our plan, but if we go up to our second floor we can see where the roof planes came in on this floor. And we're going to get into a perspective full overview, and we can see how the roof planes came in and how we have a hip roof system now over our house. But if we take a look at our final photo of the roof, we can see that we have a gable roof system over many areas of our plan. So let's go ahead and modify our roof, and to change our roof from a hip roof to a gable roof, we do that through the wall specification dialog box. So I'm going to press spacebar and come over to our first wall over here, and if you don't select the wall on the first time you might need to press tab to select the wall. And I'm going to open it up, and then I'm going to go down to our roof panel, and here I can see that it is currently a hip wall, but I'm just going to check this option for full gable wall. And if you're currently a Chief Architect user, you'll notice this new option for Dutch gable wall, and then I'm going to press OK. And with auto rebuild roof turned on, it changed the roof over this part of our plan to a gable roof. I'm going to do the same thing for this wall over here, select it once, and instead of opening the wall and changing it to a gable wall, I have a shortcut down here in my toolbar to automatically change it to a gable wall. So there we have that wall updated, and then next let's orbit to the back of our plan, press spacebar, select our next wall and change it to a gable, and then select our last wall and change it to a gable wall. Next, if we take a look at our final design, you'll notice that we have a gable roof over this door right here. So let's go ahead and add this. To add this gable roof over the door, first we're going to press spacebar and select the door. And then in our bottom toolbar right here, we have a button right here that says gable over door window. And pressing it once, you can specify the pitch or the overhang for the gable roof that we're going to build over this door. And these options look fine to me, so I'm just going to press OK. And there we've automatically built a gable roof over the front door. Next, let's manually modify the roof so that the roof planes on the first floor meet up at a single roof height. And we're going to do that by modifying the ridge height of these roof planes on the left-hand side so that it meets with the ridge height of the roof planes in the middle. So to get started, we first need to know what the ridge height of these roof planes in the middle is. So we're going to do this by double-clicking on this roof plane to open it up. And at the very top right here, we have this option for lock ridge height. And what we're simply going to do is right-click and copy that ridge height so that we know what it is. And while we're on the roof plane specification box, here we could change the ridge height, the baseline height, fascia height, or the pitch on an individual roof plane basis if we wanted to. And we also have many of those same panels that you saw in the automatic rebuild roof dialog box. Let's go ahead and cancel out of this. And next we need to manually modify the roof planes on the left-hand side's ridge height to match that ridge height that we just copied. So the first thing I'm going to do is select this roof plane. And you'll notice that it's jetting up a little bit here in the middle. So we're just going to select that and drag it back down so it's flush all the way across. And by manually modifying that roof plane, we're going to get this question asking us if we want to turn off the auto rebuild roofs behavior. And we're going to select yes to this question. And then we're just going to go down here to the bottom left-hand corner and open up this roof plane. And we're going to lock the fascia height. And then we're going to go to the ridge height right here and then just highlight over it and press delete. And then pressing Control V on my keyboard, I'm going to paste in that new ridge top height and then press tab. And you can see how that modified the baseline height, the pitch, and other information throughout this dialog box. And I'm just going to press OK. And then in our 3D view, you can see how that modified it. And next, I'm going to modify these two roof planes on either side by selecting one, holding Control on my keyboard, and then selecting the other, and then opening them up. And then I'm going to do the same thing, lock the fascia top height, highlight our ridge top height, press Control V to paste that in, and press tab to update it. And once I'm happy with those changes, just press OK. So now you can see that we have those roof planes on the left-hand side modified, but we still have a little bit of work to do. We have a gap right here where the roof plane was meeting up with the other ones. So let's go ahead and modify these two roof planes in the center so that they're meeting up at a single point. And to do this, I'm going to do this work in my floor plan view. I first need to go down to my first floor, and then I'm going to select the first roof plane and then just drag it out until it's the right shape that I want it to be. And then repeat this for the second roof plane. And now that those roof planes are the right shape that I want them to be, let's go back to our 3D view. So you can see how the roof's starting to come together, but we need these roof planes to extend so that they meet the roof planes in the middle of the house. And to do this, we have a special tool called Join Roof Planes that will build the roof planes until they meet up with each other. So I'm going to select our first roof plane, and then in my bottom toolbar, I'm going to select the Join Roof Planes tool, and then I'm going to select the second roof plane. And we can see how it joined those two roof planes together. And then I'm just going to do the same thing on the other side over here. Press spacebar, select our first roof plane, press the Join Roof Planes tool, select our second roof plane, and there we've got all of our roof planes joined together on the first floor. And that's going to complete building the roof over our model. So let's go ahead and close this 3D view, and next let's build the framing for our model. To do this, I'm going to go up to Build, Framing, and then we have a lot of different options for building our framing, and we're going to do this through the automatic framing options, which is right here, and we'll come back to in a second. But if you wanted to manually place different framing members throughout our plan, such as posts, footings, rafters, build trusses, joists, beams, and so forth, you can do so using these tools. We're going to automatically build our framing, so I'm going to select the Build Framing option. And then here you have different panels for the different areas in our plan that you can build your framing. And we're going to start at the foundation level and build the subfloor between the foundation and the first floor. So I'm going to check this option for Build Floor Framing, and then under the floor structure we can edit what type of floor structure we're going to be using. We can see that we currently have a 3/4 inch OSB board, but if you wanted to change that from an OSB board to something else, you can change the material right here. And you can see that we're currently using a 12-inch I-joist, but if you wanted to change it from an I-joist to something else, you can do that here. And if you're currently a Chief Architect user, you'll notice these new framing options that were introduced in version X10. Let's go ahead and cancel out of this. And if you wanted to change the spacing of these joists from 60 inches on center to something else, you can do that right here. You can change the joist width right here and change the rim joist size and other framing information for your subfloor right here. Going to our first floor, we're going to specify that we do want to build a ceiling over the first floor of our plan, and we do want to build the subfloor for the second floor of our plan. And then we're going to go to the second floor, and we are going to build a ceiling over the second floor. And then we do not have a third floor, so we do not have any subfloor framing options available. Next, we're going to specify that we do want to build the wall framing, and then we can change information about how many plates we have building above and below our wall framing. We can also specify our opening sizes right here in the span chart. You can specify the framing around the fireplaces, and if you were to manually place beams or posts, you can specify how those will place into your design. You can build your roof framing here, so let's go ahead and build it with rafters. If you're going to be adding trusses, you can specify how those would get placed in here, how they will display in your plan, and what material should display when you build your framing. So let's go ahead and press OK to this, and next we're going to get a lot of questions asking if we want to display these in our floor plan view. And if we press yes to all these questions, our floor plan is going to have a lot of objects for all the joists, beams, posts, and so forth that we just added. So let's go ahead and press no to most of these questions. And let's go ahead and press yes, let's display our wall framing. And if you're currently a Chief Architect user, you'll notice this new option to display your headers in your floor plan views. So now that we've built our framing, we can zoom in close and you can see where those wall studs were placed throughout our plan. And if we zoom in close, we can select one of our wall studs by first clicking on them, and you'll notice there that I selected the pony wall, and you can tell I selected it in the bottom left hand corner, and pressing tab we can then change over to the stud. Now that we have the stud selected, if we wanted to, we can move the stud, or we could resize it if we wanted to. And you can also use your copy tools and dimension tools. So if you needed to make copies of them and manually modify their size or position, you can do that here as well. Let's go ahead and press undo a couple times in the top toolbar. There we go. And if we wanted to take a look at our framing in a 3D view, we have a special framing view called our Perspective Framing Overview. And you'll notice that once we get into this view, we don't have any of our windows, our accessories, our roof shingles, our wall materials, anything. It's just a 3D view of only our framing. We can also see our framing on a wall-by-wall basis in a 2D elevation view by creating a wall framing detail. To do this, let's first close out of our 3D camera and select the wall that we want to see the wall detail for. In the bottom toolbar, you'll notice that we have a couple of framing options. The first is build framing for selected objects, which will only build the framing for a single object you have selected. So that could be a wall like we have selected, or a roof plane, or some other object that requires framing members. And then the second option is open wall detail. And if we select that, we'll open a framing detail of this wall. So pressing spacebar, we can modify our framing in this view, and any modifications you make are dynamically updated throughout your other views, such as your floor plan or 3D views. Next, if we need this wall detail for construction documents or permits, we can create a layout sheet and send this view to the layout sheet. To create a layout sheet, you can go up to File, and then New Layout to create a new layout sheet. And I already have a layout started that we're going to be using for this plan. And here on this layout sheet, there's a title block that you can modify to include any information that you want on it. So that could perhaps be the client or business or designer information, an address, the sheet name, a page number, or any other general information that you want to include. And you can see in the top of the page that we're currently on the first page of our layout sheet. But if we go back, we will be on our page 0. And here you can include any information that you want to be reflected across all layout sheets. Going back, we're on our page 1 again, which I have set up to be my cover page. Our page 2, we could include a floor plan. Page 3, any elevations that we want to include. And on page 4, we have an option for our wall framing details. So let's go back to our wall framing detail, and in the top toolbar we have a button right here that says Send a Layout, and pressing it once, we can then send this view to layout and specify some information on how we want to send it to the layout. If it was a camera view, it could either be a live view or a plot plan view, information about the scale, and then more plot line options. So let's go ahead and send it over to the layout sheet at a scale of 1/4 inch equals 1 foot. Press OK. And now we have that view on our layout sheet, and if we want to rescale that view now that it's on the layout sheet, we can select it, and in our bottom toolbar we have this option that looks like a ruler. It says rescale layout view, and we can click on it and then just type in the new scale that we want, in this case 1/2 inch equals 1 foot, and press OK. And now we have that view rescaled to a slightly larger size, and we can hold Control on our keyboard and move it to other locations that we want on the layout sheet. Next, let's go back to our elevations page and create an elevation, dimension it, and send it over to our layout sheet. So I'm going to go back to our floor plan view, and I'm going to go up to our orthographic camera tools this time, and I'm going to select the cross-section elevation camera, and then I'm going to start at the front of the house and point our camera towards the house. And now I have an elevation view of the front of our house, and to dimension this elevation we'll go up to our automatic dimension tools right here, and we have an option for auto story pull dimensions, and clicking it once will get story pull dimensions throughout our design, and you can specify what these dimensions will locate in your floor plan. So you can specify them to either include or uninclude headers, ceiling heights, ceiling finishes. You can see that we have ridge heights here and other locations in your design. And if you are currently a Chief Architect user, this feature was expanded upon in version X10, and to learn more about the additions to this feature, please see our website. Once we're happy with how this elevation looks, we can go ahead and send this elevation to our layout sheet as well. And once again, we have a lot of those options for how we want to send this view over. So let's go ahead and send this view to our layout sheet as plot lines, and let's go ahead and specify that they will have a color fill, and the scale of 1/4 inch equals 1 foot is fine for me, and I'm going to press OK. And now we have that view on our layout sheet, and I'm just going to select it and bring it up into the top of our corner in this layout sheet. And then next, let's go ahead and go to the second floor of our layout sheets and send a floor plan over to our layout sheet. So I'm going to go back to our floor plan view, press spacebar, and if I send this view over to our layout sheets, we're going to have all the information that we have displayed, such as the roof planes, the living labels, the wall studs, and etc. displayed on our layout sheets. And this could be fine for some views on the layout sheet, but if I want just a clean view showing only our walls and room labels, I could get into the layer display options that we were in earlier and turn off these layers. But there's a more efficient way to quickly switch between views to turn on or off the display of groups of layers, and that's through the use of layer sets. At the top center of the screen, we can see that we are in the working layer set, which is a good layer set for doing our general design work, but for sending views to the layout sheets, we would probably want to use a different layer set. So if I select from the drop down, there's a bunch of different layer sets that come with the program out of the box, and you can use these to quickly switch between pre-saved groups of layers being displayed, and you can also create your own layer sets, and information on how to do that is available through the training resources on our website. So I'm going to go ahead and switch down to our floor plan shell layer set, zoom out of my view a little bit so I have the whole view being displayed, press our send to layout button, press OK. And then we now have this view on our layout sheet, and when I can once again hold control and move this into the corner. So next, let's take a look at how you can easily create CAD details and schedules into the program. To do this, I'm going to go back to our floor plan view, and to create a CAD detail or a schedule, I'm going to go up to this option at the top that says CAD, and then go down to CAD Detail Management. Here I can create a new CAD detail, and if I have any CAD details already created, I could rename them, delete them, or open them. But for now, let's just create a new CAD detail. And we're just going to give this CAD detail the name of Foundation Detail, and then press OK. And you'll notice there that we created a new tabbed view at the top, and now we have our CAD tools activated. You could use these CAD tools to freehand draw any details that you need, but the program also comes with over 500 CAD details in the bonus catalogs that you can use to quickly drop into the design. So if I open the bonus catalogs, scroll down to the CAD blocks and details, we can go through the folders until we find a detail that we want to use in the program. So if this was a detail I wanted to use in our layout sheets, I could come over and just click it, press yes, I want to display this layer in our current view, and then zoom in, and then we could send this view to our layout sheet. If we needed to modify this detail a little bit, we could select it, and in our bottom toolbar press unblock to explode this CAD detail into individual components. We can select the text and the arrows and the fills individually, open them up, and modify them to meet our requirements. If we have modified this detail and we know we're going to use it in future plans, we can save it to our user catalog, which is where we can save any items we use frequently and want quick access to, or that we've custom created. So to save this to our user catalog, I first need to reblock it by clicking and marking around it, and then in our bottom toolbar pressing Make CAD Block, and then you'll notice that we have this item that looks like a few books with a plus sign next to it that says Add to Library. So I'm just going to click it once, and you can see how that was added to our user catalog off in our library browser, off in the right hand side of our screen, and I can right click on it, rename it, and name it My Detail. So once again, to get this detail on our layout sheets, we would just press the Send to Layout button. And if you want to create a schedule, you would do the same thing, CAD Detail Management, press New, and then to create a schedule, you'll go up to Tools, Schedules, and then pick the schedule that you want. For this example, let's click on a window schedule, and then just click once in the plan to place it in. And then you can double click on the schedule to open it up and change what columns you want to be included in it or unincluded in it. And once you're happy with how the schedule is displayed, you could also send this view to your layouts as well. So let's go ahead and close out of some of these views that we've just created, and I'm going to close our library browser, close this detail, and we're now back in our floor plan view, which we want to keep open. But let's go ahead and close this wall detail, and then let's close this elevation as well. And we do want to save this elevation view that we've sent to our layout. And if we ever want to open any of those views again, we can do so by opening up our project browser right here in our toolbar. And you can also access the project browser by going to View and then Project Browser. And here you can open up any views that you have in the plan. Let's go ahead and close our project browser, switch back to our working layer set. And as you're creating the design, the program's keeping track of all the materials that you're using in the design, and you can display a materials list at any time by going up to Tools, Materials List, and then you have a couple different ways how you want to display the materials list, but let's go ahead and display the materials list for all floors. This materials list is going to be based on everything that we've included within our plan, and you'll notice that we have options to include our own price to get us a total estimate. And if you're currently a Chief Architect user, there were some new features added to this in version X10. One of those features was a Find in Plan feature, which allows you to select a row of items, and then in our bottom toolbar we have that Find Object in Plan, and we can click on it once and we'll instantly be brought into a floor plan where we'll have all those items that we told the program to find selected. Let's go ahead and close this view, and if you know the pricing that you receive for your materials, you can input it here to get an estimate on your project. Let's go ahead and close our materials list and close our layout sheet. And next, add a kitchen to our design. To add a kitchen to the design that I've already created, I'm going to open up our library browser, and in our user catalog I have a folder with a kitchen that I've already created, and I'm just going to select this kitchen and I'm just going to click once in our design to drop it in, and then zooming in I'm going to select this kitchen and rotate it around, and then holding Control on my keyboard I'm going to move our kitchen slightly. And to get the kitchen precisely in the corner of this room, I'm going to use the point-to-point move tool, which allows us to select a point on an object in our plan and move it to another place in our design. So I've got the kitchen selected, and I'm going to select the point-to-point move tool, select the point on it, and then just select that I want to move it onto the drywall in our plan, and click once. And there we've got the kitchen perfectly fitted into the corner in the plan. And if you look in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, you'll notice this says architectural block. And an architectural block is objects that we've grouped together and blocked together into a single unit. I can unblock the architectural block into the individual objects by clicking the Explode Architectural Block button in the bottom toolbar. And just to demonstrate how you can make an architectural block, I'm going to press spacebar, and then left click and marquee over this island, and then in the bottom toolbar you have this button right here that says make architectural block. And then if this was an island that I know I've used frequently, I could add it to my user library to have quick access and drop into my design. Let's go ahead and close our library browser, and then next use a 3D camera to look at this kitchen, and we're going to use the full camera, and then just click and drag where we want this camera to be facing. So here we are in the 3D view, and I'm not going to go into too much depth on creating a kitchen design since we have kitchen and bathroom demonstrations that go into more depth on creating these interior rooms. But many interior design features are also smart features. For example, if we zoom in and press spacebar, select this cabinet, and resize it to 27 inches, you can see that the single door there gets automatically replaced with a set of double doors. Additionally, fixtures and appliances are smart in that they recognize how to automatically be cut into countertops or placed into cabinets. And for more information on kitchen, bath, and interior design, please see our other webinars and training resources. So now that I've added the kitchen to our floor plan, let's go ahead and define this room as a kitchen. So I'm going to go back to our floor plan view, zoom out a little bit, and before we define this room as a kitchen, let's go ahead and separate this space from this space in this large room so that we can define this room as a kitchen and this room as a dining room. And I'm going to do that using a tool called the room divider, which is going to act as a visible wall but without actually placing a wall. So with the room divider tool selected, I'm just going to click and drag where I want to separate these two spaces, and you'll notice how I separated those spaces there. And I can now select on this room and define it as a kitchen, and then double click on this room and separately define it as a dining room. Press OK, and then if we switch back to our 3D view, you can see how that updated our flooring since I had that flooring material predefined within our default settings. Going back to our floor plan view, let's go ahead and add some can lights to our ceiling. To add lights to these two rooms, I'm going to go up to our electrical tools right here in our toolbar, and from the drop down we select a light, and then I'm just going to come into our plan and just click once where I want a light to be. Now I could continue to place our lights and use the dimensioning tools to evenly dimension these lights apart, but we have a more efficient way to quickly add these lights throughout these rooms, and that's through a tool called the multiple copy tool. So I'm going to press spacebar and select our light, and then in the bottom toolbar I have a tool called multiple copy, and I'm just going to click on it once and then click on the child tool for the multiple copy interval. And here we can tell the program how many copies of this light we want to evenly distribute throughout the plan. We can also specify whether there will be a secondary behavior as we're placing our lights, which we're going to have. So let's go ahead and say that we want to place 3 sets of lights, and we're going to place these 3 sets of lights horizontally, and then let's say we're going to add another 4 sets of lights going throughout these 2 rooms. You could also use this option at the top for offset between copies when dragging, which will continuously place objects a predefined distance apart. Let's go ahead and press OK to this. So now to multiple copy those lights, I'm going to come over to our light, and notice that once I hover over it, my mouse changes. And then to activate our mode that uses both the primary and secondary distribution behavior, I'm going to right click and hold my right click on my mouse and evenly distribute those lights across. And then once I'm satisfied with their location, I'm going to release my click, which now activates my secondary distribution behavior, and then I can just drag those 4 copies out. And once I'm happy with those lights location, I can just click once, and now we have all of our lights distributed. Pressing spacebar, I'm just going to go back to our electric tools, and I'm going to select the switch and place it on the wall. Next, to indicate that those ceiling can lights are connected to that switch, I'm going to go back to our electrical tools and select a tool called Connect Electrical, and then use this tool to indicate which lights are connected to that switch. And I can select these Connect Electrical lines and drag and modify them so that they look how I want them to in my floor plan. Next, we have a couple different electrical tools for placing outlets, but I'm going to use this tool down here called Auto Place Outlet, and I'm just going to select the tool once and select the room that I want to place the outlets in, and you can see that it placed outlets throughout our kitchen and our dining room, and in our kitchen it placed GFCI outlets in the appropriate spots. And if we go back to our 3D view, you can now see how we have lighting available in our 3D view. Next, let's go ahead and change the material that we have being displayed on our cabinets. To do this, I'm going to go up to our toolbar at the top, and we have a tool called the Material Painter. And the Material Painter allows us to find materials in our library browser and quickly distribute them to other items in our plan. So I'm going to search for a white material, select the material I want to use, and press OK. And then you'll notice that my mouse has changed to a spray can icon. In the bottom left-hand corner, we have different distribution modes for applying this material. So if we zoom in close to this cabinet, you'll see that we're currently on the mode that says C, which is our component mode. So we'll only apply it to one component on this cabinet that has that material, in this case the door. And if we press undo, switch to object mode, we'll now replace all materials on this cabinet that share the wood grain material. We could continue to replace materials throughout the room that share material, the floor, or the plan, and we also have this option at the end that blends colors with materials. So let's go ahead and press undo on that cabinet, switch our distribution mode to be plan wide, and specify that we want to blend the color with the material, and then select on one of our cabinets. So there you can see how we've blended that white color with the wood grain on our cabinets, and we've distributed that color throughout this plan. Let's go ahead and distribute this wood grain material that we see on our flooring throughout our plan. And to do this, I'm going to go up to our toolbar and select a tool called the Material Eyedropper. And this allows me to select a material off an object and apply it elsewhere throughout our plan. So I'm going to select the material on our floor. Once again, make sure I'm in plan mode for distributing it, and just come over to our material in the adjacent room. And there we've replaced that material throughout our plan with our aged dark wood stain material. So next, let's go through the different 3D rendering techniques available in our program. In this drop down at the top toolbar, we have different rendering techniques. We're currently in our standard mode, but there's different rendering techniques as well, a vector view, a glass house view, which is nice if you need to see through walls in other rooms, a dual tone, a technical illustration, a watercolor, a line drawing, and then a new rendering technique that was introduced in version X10 is physically based rendering, which is like ray tracing in real time. So you'll notice that we have reflections going off of our stainless steel, and the detail you see in the floor is more realistic. We can further add realism to this design by adding shadows by going up to our toolbar, and from this drop down right here, selecting our toggle shadows option, and then adjusting our sunlight to be coming through the window so we get some nice shadows. So we can adjust our sunlight by going to our adjust lights option, select adjust sunlight, uncheck sun follows camera, and then adjust our sunlight to an angle that comes into our design. Let's go ahead and turn off shadows and switch back to our standard rendering technique, and then add some stairs into this part of our plan. To add stairs, I'm first going to go back to our floor plan view, and then I'm going to right click to pan over to the area of our design that we want to add these stairs, and that's going to be over in this corner right here. And I'm going to press space bar and then just highlight over some of these items that are where the stairs are going to be located, and then just delete them. And then to add the stairs, we're going to go up to build, stairs, and then we have a couple different options, just drawing stairs, straight stairs, which are meant to go short distances from decks to terrains, curved stairs, an L-shaped stair, a U-shaped stair, and then other stair tools. I'm going to use the U-shaped stair tool, and when you click on it, you have different options for how you want the stairs to draw on your plan and the gap between the two U-shaped stair sections, and I'm just going to press OK to this, and then notice that we get that feedback as to where those stairs are going to be placed. So I'm going to go ahead and click once in our plan to place those stairs, and if we take a look at them in a 3D view, you'll notice that those stairs automatically came in with a railing on either side, and we're going to have to draw some walls under these stairs to complete them, which we'll do in a second. Let's go ahead and press spacebar and double click on this stair section to take a look at how we can modify these stairs. Under the general information, you can see information about how this staircase is building, and if your staircase is not meeting the second floor, you can select this option for make best fit to automatically adjust it to meet the second floor. You can modify information about your different stair sections, the length, the width, the tread depth, the number of treads, the height information about your treads, and so forth. You can also change the style of these stairs, whether they have a stringer, they're open underneath, they have a runner, a winder, the tread size. You can specify whether it'll have a brake line in your floor plan view, the design for these railings, the design for the newels and balusters, the design of the rails, the line styles, the fill in your floor plan, the materials being used, and an up arrow. Let's go ahead and cancel out of this, and if we look in our 3D view, we can see that the stairs are not yet connected to our second floor and that we need a stairwell here. There's a really convenient feature called Auto Stairwell that cuts a hole in the floor platform above these stairs between the first and second floor, so the software does all the work for us in making sure these stairs connect. So to use this feature, I'm first going to press spacebar, select our stairs, and in the bottom toolbar we have the feature for Auto Stairwell, and I'm just going to click on it once. And you can see how it cut a hole on the first floor for those stairs. And if we move our camera up to the second floor and just look around, you can see that we have a railing on the second floor. And you'll notice that we have a glass railing on the second floor, and this was something that was set up in my default settings. So next, let's go ahead and go back down to the first floor and work in 2D and 3D at the same time to add our walls underneath these stairs. So I'm just going to select our tab and pull it over. And in our floor plan view, I'm first going to modify how these stairs display in the floor plan view so that we can see through them and see where we're placing our walls. So I'm going to select our landing, hold Control on my keyboard, and select our two stair segments and press Open Object. And then I'm going to go to Fill Style, and I'm going to set the transparency right here to be 50%, which allows us to see through these stairs. Next, I'm going to go up to our wall tools, and I'm going to select our straight interior wall, and then just click and drag about where I want this wall to be placed. And notice in our 3D view how the program was smart enough to cut this wall underneath our stairs. And I'm just going to select this wall in our 2D floor plan and use the arrows on my keyboard to nudge it over until it's in the position that I want it. So that's looking good under that stair section, and I'm going to go back into our floor plan and select our wall tool and then just click and drag where we want this wall to be. And I'm once again going to select this wall section and use the arrows on my keyboard to nudge these walls into my desired position. So there, those stairs are looking pretty good, and then the last thing I want to do is just remove this handrail against this wall. So to do that, I'm going to hold Control on my keyboard and then select this stair section. And the reason I held Control was so that I only select one stair section instead of both stair sections at a time. Go down to Open Objects, go down to the panel that says Railing, and then unselect Railing at Wall Left, and then press OK. And then in our 3D view, you can see how we now have those stairs completed. So next, let's go ahead and close our 3D view, zoom out of our floor plan a little bit, and transition into working on some of the exterior features of this plan. In a final photo of the model, you can see that we have a terrain surrounding our house along with plants, a driveway, steps leading to the front of the house, and a backdrop. So let's go ahead and add these to the plan. So I'm going to minimize our photo, and to add a terrain to our design, I'm going to go up to Terrain and then Create Terrain Perimeter. So there we've quickly added our terrain perimeter, and we can select it and resize it and reshape it as we need to. And if you need to input the dimensions, you can do that as well. If you know that your terrain is sloped and you need to add elevation data, you can do so by going up to Terrain and then Elevation Data, and then add an elevation point, elevation line, spline, region, or break as you need to throughout the model. And if you have received a file from a surveyor, such as a DWG file, you can import that into the program to use as your terrain perimeter, and more information about how to do this is available in an online training video. Next, to search for specific plants you would like to add to the model, there's a feature called the Plant Chooser, which will display plants based on characteristics that you defined. I've already got some plants chosen for this model, so let's go ahead and open up our library browser, and in my user catalog I have some plants that we can just click once to place in our plan, and then I'm just going to select them once, rotate this architectural block around, and then move them into the position I would like them in our model. And there we go. And we can take a look at these in a 3D view by going up to our camera tools. And I'm just going to select the full camera and click and drag where I would like to place this camera. And we can see in our 3D view how we've added that terrain perimeter and our plants. Let's go ahead and go back to our floor plan view and next add those steps out front of the house. So I'm going to press space bar, get back into the library browser, select the front steps, and then just click once to place them in the plan. And then I'm going to zoom in close again and then use the point to point move tool again and move those steps into the corner. So I'm going to select the tool, select the point I want to move, select the point I want to move it to, and then if we get back into our 3D view, we can see how we've added those steps out front of our design. So next let's go ahead and add a driveway to the front of our house, and to do this I'm going to get back into our floor plan view, zoom out a little bit, and go up to our terrain tools, and you'll notice that we have a lot of terrain tools in addition to those elevation tools and plant chooser tools we talked about earlier. There's a sidewalk tool, driveway tool, road tools, and then other features you can add to the design as well. There's also a tool for a slab which can also be used to create your driveway. So I'm just going to click and drag where I want this slab to be and then just connect it to our house on all the sides. And then get back into our 3D view, and then I'm going to double click on the slab to open it up, and you can see that we have a 4-inch thick slab and our elevation reference is currently set from the floor, but we can change that to be from the terrain. And then let's go ahead and set the terrain to the top of the slab to be 0.25 inches and press OK. And there we've lowered that slab back down to our terrain, and then we can just use that material eyedropper tool again to select the material off the steps and then place it on the driveway. Next, let's add a photo backdrop to the model, and the software comes with a variety of photos that you can use as backdrops, and you can also import a photo that you've taken of an empty lot or a particular scene to see what different views of the house will look like. And there's a variety of ways you can add the backdrop to the design, but I'm just going to go up to our bonus catalogs where we have a catalog for backdrops, and then I'm just going to select a photo that we have within our bonus catalog, and then come into the model, and you'll notice how my mouse has changed there, and then click once, and we can see how the model is now looking with that backdrop. And one last thing I wanted to talk about before we conclude this demonstration is the ability to create a photorealistic image through a feature called ray tracing. Ray tracing does an advanced calculation of light and material properties to produce an image of the design as if it were in the real world. Let's take a look at some photos of some completed ray traces. In this first photo, you'll notice that we have some ambient lighting in the horizon along with interior lighting and a reflection off this tree to recreate this model at dusk. Our next photo is producing some nice reflections off of the back glass wall. There's also reflections off the water in the tub and off the hardware for the shower and even this bucket where there's little pieces of metal. And you'll notice that we have some nice crisp shadows in the image as well. And in our last example, the grout and the pattern on the tile produces a nice effect, along with how the back wall looks different when you see it on either side of the glass. And if we get back into the program, we can kick off a ray trace by going to 3D and then down to ray trace. And if you are using a virtual reality headset to show the client the design, you can enter the virtual reality mode here, and virtual reality was a new feature added to X10. Going back up to ray trace, here you can dial in the ray trace settings, and the speed at which the ray trace will generate depends upon a lot of factors such as your computer processor, the light sources in the scene, how many surfaces you have in the scene, and more. And for more information on how to ray trace, please see our other training resources. And that's one of the benefits of Chief Architect is that there are a variety of training resources to accommodate different learning styles. There's over 700 how-to articles, over 500 training videos. There's an active user forum where you can post your plan and get your questions answered. There's a tutorial guide, a reference manual, and more. And all these resources are free, which makes learning the software quick and easy. And that's going to conclude today's demonstration. There are two program options available. The first is Chief Architect Interiors, which is a great option if you are an interior designer designing kitchens, bathrooms, and other interior rooms. The second option is our flagship program, Chief Architect Premier, which will include all the tools and features of Chief Architect Interiors, plus more tools for full residential and light commercial design. All new purchases and upgrades include 1 year of support and software assurance, which provides priority phone tech support, premium catalogs including manufacturer's content, new version releases, discounts on additional licenses, and other benefits. The software can be purchased as a one-time outright purchase or rented monthly as needed, and if rented for 18 consecutive months for Premiere or 12 consecutive months for Interiors, you will own your license outright. I would like to thank you for attending this demonstration, and we will be emailing you a replay of this demonstration later today. And if you have any questions, please let us know, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.